The Skinwalker, an entity in Navajo folklore able to take the form of various animals. Stories of this creature have also taken a variety of forms throughout the years, as aspects of it have seeped its way across different cultures. Today, I'll be sharing different stories about the legendary Skinwalker, most of which have been shared online. I'm your host, James, and these are the top 10 scary Skinwalker urban legends. And we're going to start this list off with the most common form of the Skinwalker, the one seen in Navajo folklore. I'll have to apologize from the jump here because Skinwalkers are not supposed to be discussed. It's said that they will hunt down whoever speaks them out loud, and details about Skinwalkers are not something that the Navajo like discussing with outsiders. Because of this, there's a lot of mystery surrounding these entities, and most of the stories on this list probably don't resemble the more traditional aspects of the creature. But in general though, Skinwalkers are malevolent entities that can take on the form of a variety of different animals, commonly wolves or coyotes. These creatures were formerly practitioners of dark magic, witches who committed particularly awful acts of some kind, like taking the life of a family member, for example. Skinwalkers are also said to be able to take on human forms, appearing as a friend or loved one. And at number 9, we have the Skinwalker On The Road legend. So there are a variety of different tales in this realm of Skinwalker folk, but these are probably the best examples of the more Anglo-American versions of the creature, veering away from the traditional Native American depictions. These types of stories are really what ignited the popularity of Skinwalkers on apps like TikTok, for example, where you have found footage of a supposed Skinwalker type creature lurking behind bushes or on the side of the road, stuff like that. In general, these stories feature someone driving down a desolate road at night. Maybe they see someone stranded on the side of the road. In some versions, they might pull over and get out of the car to help the person before realizing they've encountered a malevolent entity. Other versions are more subtle, where someone just sees something strange on the side of the road, a deer walking on its hind legs before running off into the forest while laughing, that kind of thing. Speaking of Skinwalkers being featured in videos though, we have this next clip originally posted to TikTok by It's Louis Vuitton. In the modern era, especially with the rise of the internet, video has added a whole new layer to the way urban legends are spread, and creatures in traditional folklore sometimes make an appearance, creating a kind of new level of buzz around them. In this video, a few guys are driving down a quiet road in the dead of night, using their flashlights to try and spot a buck that one of them said they saw. In the distance, one of them spots some type of figure, thinking it may be the animal they spotted earlier. When they shine their light on it though, whatever it is looks too human to be a buck, but not normal enough to be human. A pale, slender creature that makes a terrifying screeching sound before it begins rushing towards the camera. In at number 7 is a Skinwalker Encounter story posted to Reddit by Schnizzly. It was almost midnight, and they lay inside their tent attempting to sleep. The tent was pitched near a cluster of standing dead trees, which would emit creaking sounds when the wind blew. This night, however, was oddly silent and motionless. Gradually, they started hearing the distinct noises of cracking sticks and footsteps drawing nearer over a span of about 15 minutes. The sounds were loud enough to convince them that a bear was approaching. The unseen presence came so close that it seemed no more than 15 feet away. The cracking sticks and soft steps persisted, and the Redditor, growing fearful, decided to shout out loudly. All they heard was an eerie silence, with no signs of the creature fleeing. They sat in silence, attempting to rationalize the situation, and about 20 minutes later, the silence was shattered by an unsettling, unnatural noise. It mirrored the timbre and volume of the trees creaking outside, but just didn't sound ordinary. The sound began and sustained the exact same note for a prolonged 5 seconds or even more. An unnatural kind of drone. There was no wind, and the noise had no correlation to the usual tree creaking sounds. They couldn't sleep the rest of the night. It wasn't until weeks later they made the connection that Skinwalkers were known to imitate sounds in a similar manner. And at number 6, we have Chased. This story was just recently posted to Reddit by user Dog with Keyboard Woof. Apparently this happened in Western Cape, South Africa 13 years ago. They wrote, A friend of mine and I were 15 at the time. We were walking home at midnight in a small coastal town in winter, so there wasn't really anybody around. We heard dogs barking up ahead, and we thought, damn, those dogs can hear us all the way from down here. And we carried on walking when I got a weird feeling, but ignored it. As we got to the corner, in a split second we heard movement next to us and instinctively pulled away when a tall, like 7-foot plus, all white figure with no hair came out of the bushes. At this point, we were running away full speed. My friend even shouted at me to wait for him because I am a lot quicker. I turned around and I couldn't effing believe what I was seeing chasing behind him. We managed to zigzag our way around because we'd grown up here and we knew shortcuts and hid in a building site for hours before eventually running home. And at number 5, we have Saved by a Phone Call. I don't even care if this story was completely made up. It's a chilling one. It was posted to Reddit by user 20 Green Beans and goes as follows. Last night, I had definitely what will go down as one of my most bone-chilling memories. I was wide awake and nowhere near tired. I was reading in my living room near the window. From outside, I heard my sister's voice calling for me. She was out all day, out of town. I thought she was just coming by to show me the dresses she picked out to wear to the wedding she's attending this week. Us both being night owls, I thought nothing of it. I heard the voice yell for me again, so I looked out the window. Downstairs, I saw her just standing there looking up into the living room window. She motioned for me to come down, but her body language didn't look like hers. It was rather stiff and her face didn't move as I heard her yell for me again. Figuring she was just too tired to come up, I turned to grab my shoes and head downstairs. But then this is what kept me up all night. My phone went off. It was a phone call coming in from my sister. I answered it to say that I'd be right down. She's always been a rather impatient person, so before she could say anything, I just said, yeah, I see you, I'm coming down. There was a slight pause, and she goes, no, I just got home. You aren't answering my video chat requests. I want to show you my dresses I'm gonna wear. My stomach sank. I looked out the window. What I thought was her wasn't there. I know it would have had to been something trying to imitate her because she called out in her exact voice and inflection, using 2 nicknames that only she uses. Creeped out, I quickly video called her. From her phone camera, I saw the familiar background of her bedroom. I've never felt so unsettled in my whole life. And at number 4, we have The Grove. This story was shared to Reddit by user Hey Johnny Utah. This didn't happen to me, but a very close friend of mine. Patrick's story kept me from going back to a favorite backcountry secret stash. He was leaving the area one morning and had been camping there a couple days and said there was a coyote that always seemed to be close by, like in his peripheral vision, but never overt. He loaded up his truck and started to drive down the wash out to the fire road. At the end of the wash, he could see the coyote following him. When he pulled onto the road, it was running next to him. Now he was freaked out, so he sped up. He said he was going 35 or so and it was running along beside him. Definitely not possible. When he looked back, the coyote was running on 2 legs and was wearing what Patrick said looked like buckskin pants. An instant later, it was a person wearing a coyote fur keeping pace with his truck. When he looked again, it was gone. We never went back to the Grove after that. Too freaky. So you can kind of see the Skinwalker on the Road legends kind of making their way into that one, which is interesting. At number 3, you have a story posted by Punch Drunk AA. So this happened about 12 years ago. My family owns a farm in the heart of an Indian reservation. One winter I was home for Christmas, taking care of the farm while my parents were away Christmas shopping. As I was home by myself, way late in the night, and I hear all the cows freaking out. I knew it had to be the wild dogs that are rampant in the area, so I throw on some boots, grab a shotgun, load it up, and head out to the field. This was a perfect scenario for a horror movie. It was cloudy, but there was a full moon, and it was breaking through the clouds just right to light up all the snow. I ran out into the middle of the field, and just in time, I see 2 dogs. They were standing up, facing each other, and fighting. I think, perfect. 2 for 1. So I pump a shell into the chamber of my 12 gauge and then it happened. The 2 dogs heard the rack. They both stopped, looked over at me and ran away on their back legs. Immediately I froze, and every ghost story about skinwalkers and all the other native legends I grew up with flew through my mind. In at number 2, Skinwalker Ranch in Utah is known for its eerie stories surrounding skinwalkers. Over the years, witnesses have reported encountering unidentified flying objects as well, witnessing cattle mutilations, and having first-hand encounters with what really sounds like skinwalkers. Scientific investigations into these strange occurrences have been inconclusive, with researchers unable to provide definitive explanations for these events. The mysteries surrounding Skinwalker Ranch are just too numerous to count. In 1996, the ranch gained significant attention when it was purchased by billionaire businessman Robert Bigelow, who established the National Institute for Discovery Science to study the paranormal activity reported on the property. NIDS conducted research on the ranch, employing a team of scientists and researchers, investigators. Various television shows and documentaries have explored Skinwalker Ranch, cementing it really as this hotbed of paranormal activity. And finally, we have an encounter story that was posted by Weld Form. It goes as follows. We live in an apartment complex at the edge of town in Illinois. Right next to us is a woodsy area full of coyotes and deer and lots of birds, so it's pretty lively. Last night at 3 a.m., she went outside to grab a case of water from the trunk of our car, and when she was grabbing it, she claimed she heard someone say hello in a girl's voice coming from the woods. She couldn't see anything, but she replied back, confused, saying hello back. Whatever it was ended up saying, "Can somebody help me?" And that's when she got the chills and ran as fast as she could back inside our house. Right before she entered the house, she said she heard it again, with the voice getting closer, asking for help. But instead of a normal girl voice, it turned into a girl voice that didn't even sound real. And she couldn't explain the change in that voice. Plus, she said afterwards, thinking about it, that the voice sounded familiar, but couldn't point out whose it was. Why I believe she wasn't BSing is because 2 years living here, we've never talked about things like this. And when she rushed inside, she startled me because her face was in shock. She was breathing heavily. I thought she'd seen something or heard a gunshot. I don't know. With all of that said though, I've been your host James, and I'll catch you, yes you specifically, in the next video.